Okay, in this video we're going to be continuing with my ranking and we're going to do double the number of titles as in previous videos. So instead of 25 we're going to do 50 or thereabouts. And let's get started. So in 224th place we have James Bond Never Say Never Again. And I believe this is the last one that Sean Connery was in because he is quite a bit older in this one, but still a pretty solid James Bond movie there. And you won't find it in the James Bond Blu-ray collection. Nor will you find this next one, which is No Time to Die with Daniel Craig, because that 50-year Bond collection Blu-ray set has everything from Dr. No to Spectre, excluding this and the original Casino Royale, which Never Say Never Again should have been in that, and it's for the better that they left off the old Casino Royale, because that one didn't really fit with the rest of the James Bond movies at all. And then up next we have The Sixth Day, which is an Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie. I think it's super futuristic. So yeah, this was a pretty good action movie. It looks a little goofy from the cover art there, but it's actually a pretty good movie. So definitely check it out if you haven't. And then that's in 222nd place. In 221st place is Zombieland Double Tap. And the original Zombieland was ahead of its time because it was breaking the fourth wall, talking to the audience, which wasn't super common when it came out in like 2008 or 2009. It didn't really become very common until Deadpool started doing it in 2016. And then it was like, oh yeah, we could do this. Let's break the fourth wall even more. And so they do in this one. Up next, we're going to be talking about 3 titles that I don't currently have up here with me. And they are in 220th, Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, where White Castle is a food place that has little slider sandwiches that they were trying to get a ton of because they were really hungry. And a wild adventure that's really funny. And they followed that one up with something that's just as funny, but this time Harold and Kumar were trying to escape Guantanamo Bay, which I probably mispronounced. And then another horror movie that I don't have the case for up here, and I'm not even sure where the case is, honestly, is Snow Beast. And that one was kind of like a one-off horror movie, like a one-hit wonder type thing. And I mean, it was all right. I don't think it was amazing or anything like that, but it was all right. Yeah. And up next, we have in the Universal Classic Monsters collection, Frankenstein from 1931. And even though it's a really old movie, obviously from 1931, it's still pretty good, and it gives you the origin story of Frankenstein's monster in a classic form, or that set the iconic look for Frankenstein. There are a couple of movies that ignore that design and try and do something different, but they weren't as good as this one is, even though I think they're higher up on my ranking. But yeah, these Universal Classic Monster movies are really something special. And I'm going to set this off to the side because we'll be referencing it again later in this video. But in the meantime, we have in 216th place, we have The Thing from Another World by Howard Hawks's production. And the only one that ties this to these other two is that this one inspired John Carpenter's version, which is actually a sequel to the newer version, oddly enough. Let's see. The Thing 1982 is a sequel to The Thing 2011, because right where The Thing 2011 leaves off is where the original picks up. And actually, I've noticed I have these, or 2010 and the original reversed in my ranking, because I like this one more, which would put it the original, or the John Carpenter version, in 215th place, and the 2011 remake prequel in 214th place. So I just corrected myself right there. And then in 213th place is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I'm really looking forward to the third one, honestly, because this one was lots of fun, and so was the first one. So really looking forward to the third. The trailers look pretty good, so I am quite excited for that. Let's see. Next up are two titles that I don't have the cases for up here, and actually they're in the same case with another Hallmark movie, and they are Snow 1 in 212th, and where I can't remember the name of the actor, but the guy that plays Harrison Wells in all his different variants in the Arrowverse plays Santa Claus in these movies. Now, you may be thinking, well, that guy's kind of skinny, though. And that's the case in these movies as well. He's not your stereotypical big-bellied, bushy white bearded red suit wearing Santa. He does still occasionally wear the red suit, but he looks like an average person otherwise. And in Snow 2 Brain Freeze in 211th place, he gets amnesia and doesn't remember a thing about who or what he is, or anything about his life, and has to be retaught pretty much everything. And then up next is one of these shark movies. Like the Universal Monsters collection, we're going to be referencing this again, but this time it's for Shark Zone, the fourth movie down here. The only survivor of a shark attack, Jimmy Wagner must face the same great white sharks 10 years later as they return for a second round to terrorize a beach. Really good movie. Highly recommend it if you're a R-rated horror movie fan. In 209th place is season 1 of Pretty Little Liars Original Sin, or as I like to call it, Original Sin Season 1. I'm hoping they make a second season because this one was really, really good. And it sounds like they are wanting to make a second season, and even make a reference in the end of this in the season finale to being like, be like, oh, hopefully I live to be in the sequel season or in the next season, hinting that they're planning on making a season 2, which would be so cool. I would definitely like that. Let's see, moving up. Okay, up next we have Rose Red. I think this is probably one of the longest movies that I've watched for this ranking, other than maybe the Shining miniseries, because this one is 254 minutes, and it's so long, in fact, that they had to split it in half between two discs. It's not very often they do that. One version of Titanic that I have does the same thing, but it's not very common. But with movies of this length, and like with the Snyder Cut of Justice League and the really old like 1950s movie Ten Commandments, those two, as well as this one, are both so long that it's impossible for any format to hold it all on one disc. Because even the 4K for the Snyder Cut is on 2 discs, which is crazy to think about, but it is. And next we're gonna knock out the rest of these shark movies. In 207th place is Shark Attack 2. A great white shark captured in for the new tourist attraction Waterworld turns out to be one of the genetically mutated sharks that had escaped from captivity, and it is not alone. Good movie, good movie. Again, R-rated horror. If that's your thing, definitely check out this one. If you like creature features, check it out. Check out all 4 of these shark movies. They're all really good. In 206th place is Shark Attack 3: Megalodon. 2 researchers find a gargantuan shark's tooth off the Mexican coast. Soon they realize that it's not from an ancient fossil, but from a living prehistoric terror. And then in 205th place, or as far as these shark movies is concerned, first place is the original Shark Attack. Marine biologist Stephen McCrae, played by Casper Van Dien, uncovers a plot by a scientist who is experimenting on sharks to find a cure for cancer, resulting in super aggressive killer sharks. Just that premise while the Megalodon movie is really, really good as well, Shark Attack 3, that is, Shark Attack 1 is just so crazy and out there. I enjoy it. For this next part, or this next one, I'm going to see if there's anything to advertise Saw 10, other than maybe this. But up next is Saw X, or 10. And I watched 2 of the Saw movies for the first time this year. This is obviously the 10 film Blu-ray collection that has Saw 1 through 10, including Spiral, all in the same case. Blu-rays and DVDs of them. And yeah, Saw 10, honestly, they should have stopped after Saw 3, because in that one, the Jigsaw killer himself dies of a brain tumor, and so so 4 through 10 all had to be set before the events of number 3 in order to still have John Kramer's Jigsaw killer alive in the movie. Why not just save the third one and make that one 10 and have him die in the last movie of the franchise? Like, come on now. Anyway, in 203rd place is Spiral, aka Saw 9. Spiral from the Book of Saw. And two things this movie had going for it, for sure, is it has Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson as a father-son duo. And they make a believable father-son duo that don't get along all that well. So yeah, very pretty good movie there. And in 202nd place is Piranha Double D. Double the action, double the terror, double the D's. So yeah, this one has Christopher Lloyd. It has David Hasselhoff. It has Danielle Panabaker from the Arrowverse. She played Caitlin Snow, Killer Frost, and I forget what the third version was. What the third version of the character's name was, but anyway. Up next is the original Omen movie, the Omen 1976. That's the only one in the continuity that I've seen so far. And it's ironic that this doesn't say the complete Omen collection because it is missing the Omen 4, The Awakening. However, this does have 1, 2, 3, and the 2006 remake version. Like I said, I've only seen the original, so uh, this so hopefully the rest of these will be watched for this style of video next year. However, next year, when I do a video like this, um, I'll just have them be ranked from 1 to 25th place, or 1st to 25th place, no matter how many titles I end up talking about. That way, it'll feel a little bit more fair. So, because I feel kind of bad having some of these movies that are really, really good so low in my ranking when I thoroughly enjoyed the particular movies being talked about. So, yeah, there's that. Rounding out our bottom, I guess, bottom 100 or so, and start kicking off our top 200 is No Hard Feelings. This is one that I wish I could put up higher in the ranking because I really enjoyed this one. It's about a boy who's very socially awkward, and his parents hire um, Jennifer Lawrence's character to kind of like bring him out of his shell and basically be his first girlfriend. And at first, it doesn't go all that well, and then they start to like each other. And then he overhears a conversation between him or between her and his parents and gets all mad at her. But I think at the end, they still end up being friends or something. It's been a little while since I watched that one. I watched that one like in February of 2024, so it's been a while. It's been a little while. Not don't have the freshest thoughts on it. We'll put it that way. In 199th place is Never Been Kissed, starring Drew Barrymore and David Arquette. Um, if the name David Arquette sounds familiar, that would be because he plays either a cop or a sheriff or something like that in the Scream franchise, which is one I'm a big fan of. And of course, Drew Barrymore, I think, made her on screen debut in Firestarter, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, really good movie. Quite thoroughly enjoyed that one more than I thought I would because it's not something I would usually gravitate towards, honestly. And up next in this cool glow in the dark case here, we have Nope, Us, and Get Out, which just happens to be the order they appear in the ranking. So the one I liked the least was Nope. It didn't seem to fit with the rest of them because the first one was kind of a home invasion story. I mean, really none of these fit together. They aren't your traditional trilogy, but they're supposed to be like a trilogy. So with Get Out, you have a home invasion type story. With Us, you have people being replicated and terrorized by their darker selves. And in Nope, it's more of an alien invasion type thing. So, yeah. Um, they're all really good movies, however. So, um, but in 198th place is going to be Nope. In 197th is Us. And in 196th is Get Out. Although I think I liked Us better than Get Out, so I might change that in another ranking if I were to rank the three of them just on their own terms. And then up next is Origin Spirit or Spirits of the Past. This one is an anime movie. It has over an hour of extras, including the making of Agido, a 50-minute documentary including interviews with producer Koja Kajita and director Kaiichi Sugiyama, I guess. I probably mispronounced all of that, my bad. But pretty good movie, TV PG, so it's fine for anyone to watch. Uh, One you could show your kids if you have them, or your younger friends. It had um, it can be dubbed in English, or you can listen to it in Japanese with English subtitles. Personally, I do dub and sub. It doesn't line up all that well, but it works well enough for me. And that's in 195th place. In 194th place is the non-Disney version of Pocahontas. It's also only 45 minutes, so it's not a huge time commitment. And like Origin Spirits of the Past, it's perfectly fine to show a younger audience, just like the Disney counterpart is. However, I don't think I've seen the Disney counterpart, to be perfectly honest. And in 193rd place, we have another one that I don't have the title or the case for with me right now, and that is Population 436, about a town that if it ever exceeds that population, it will kill you off until it has that exact population. Like the town people are that crazy about maintaining the same population forever. And then in 192nd place is Devour. I believe that was a vampire movie of sorts, or a zombie movie. Pretty creepy, but I enjoyed it. And then in 191st place is the 1960s Phantom of the Opera. Came out in 1962. I believe this one shows you what happened to the Phantom in order to be disfigured. That, or I'm thinking of the 1940s version, which we'll talk about next with the Universal Classic Monsters Collection being once again being referenced. But I believe this one shows how he got disfigured as well. Yeah. So no. In 190th place is the 1943 Phantom of the Opera from the Universal Classic Monsters Collection. That one does, in fact, show what happened to the Phantom to make him disfigured, and he had acid thrown in his face, which also could tend to why he's so bitter. And then two more titles that I don't have the cases for up or case singular for with me right now. Is 189th, Another Perfect Stranger, where that which is a sequel to Perfect Stranger, or A Perfect Stranger, I think. And um where Jesus or like kind of disguises himself as just like an average Joe type person, and like just an average person, and talks to the daughter of the girl or the woman in the original movie, uh, on a couple or on one flight in on a layover in an airport, and then on a second flight, and over the course of their conversation, um, the daughter notices odd things about him, like the marks from the nails of the crucifixion, and she's just like, "I've just been having conversations with Jesus too. My mom was right," because she didn't believe that her mom had dinner with Jesus in the original movie. Um, Speaking of the original movie, A Perfect Stranger is um, is a movie where a doubt-filled and questioning Christian lady gets a mysterious invite to dinner signed by Jesus Christ, and she's like, "Yeah, this is gonna be a prank," because she has a lot of religious coworkers that have been trying to get her to put away her doubts and start coming to church again, and which doesn't work in their favor initially. And then she goes to the dinner fully expecting it to be a prank and has a long conversation with Jesus, who she ends up figuring out at the end is in fact Jesus, and it's a really good story. I like that one better than the daughter or than the sequel about the daughter. Um, Up next, I don't have the case for it up here with me, and that is History of the World Part 1 of 1. It says to be continued in the end of the movie, but they haven't made a part 2 yet. Maybe they will. Mel Brooks, I think, wants to make a sequel to it. However, I think Spaceballs 2 is taking up his attention right now, making that. But History of the World, I believe the time frame it covers is from caveman times up until I want to say like the Italian Renaissance or something like that. Um, so there's a lot more story to be covered, even if they just make a second part and call it done after that. But yeah, in 186th place, I do have the case for this one up here, and that is The Hunt. And this one is um, it's not a horror movie. It's more of like a survivalist story where the girl on the front of the case there is trying to survive being hunted by crazy people. And um, it's funny that it lists Emma Roberts on the back of the case because she gets killed off almost immediately. Whereas a character that outlives Emma Roberts' character isn't credited at all. And I believe that was Robbie Amell, cousin to Stephen Amell, who is the Green Arrow. Let's see. Up next, in 185th place, is Insidious: The Red Door, which I believe is the fifth movie in the franchise. And what I like about the Insidious franchise is that they're the rare commodity of PG-13 horror movies, and I don't think the PG-13 holds them back at all because they're pretty effective horror movies. Of course, I don't really get scared by movies unless there's like a jump scare, like Nagini popping out of the floor in Godric's Hollow. It scares me every single time. But still a really good horror movie. From a really good series of horror movies. Up next is The Last Exorcism Part 1 in 180, or no, sorry, my bad. Hold that thought. Up next is Insomnia that I do not have the case for up here. It's still downstairs in my room. And Insomnia is about a police officer that in trying to shoot a suspect who is suspected of sexual assault and murder, who's played by Robin Williams. He accidentally shoots and kills his partner because it was really foggy and he couldn't really tell who he was aiming at, and he just pulled the trigger hoping that it was the guy they were after. But he ends up killing his partner, and the guilt gives him insomnia until he kind of finds closure by meeting up with said killer and finding out that um, that he made an honest mistake shooting his partner by accident, and so he no longer has to carry the guilt around of doing that. And then next is Last Exorcism Part 1, You'd think Last Exorcism, a movie like The Last Exorcism, would just be a one-part thing, but it's a two-parter, and we'll get to the second part momentarily. This first one doesn't feel like it's a complete story. It is a creepy story, but it's not a complete one because they made it two parts. So it's a solid beginning to a creepy story. And in the back it says smart and suspenseful, superbly creepy. Both are accurate. And then up next in 182nd place is Last Exorcism Part 2 because it it completes the story set up in the first one and you and gives you a satisfying ending to the storyline. Um, Up next is one I don't have the case for up here. Unfortunately, that's a common thread with a lot of these ranking videos so far. I thought I had all the cases up here, but I don't for some reason. Up next in 181st place is Life Happens. And I don't think that's up here. No, it is not. So it is not in fact up here, but it's a good movie. It's rated R, but I don't think it deserves to be rated R. It's about uh, a lady that is interested in a guy, but he doesn't want to start a relationship with someone who has kids, and she has a son, a fairly young son too. I think it's only like a year and a half old. Still breastfeeding, which comes into play later in the movie. Um, and she tries to brush it off as like, oh, you know how girls' periods sometimes line up? Well, so does their lactating. And so it took a little bit of an awkward turn there, and then she fessed up to having to this kid, the baby being hers. After that, because the guy she was going out with didn't buy that it at that point that because she had accidentally lactated all over him. Uh, he no longer believed that the kid was not hers and that it was in fact her son, which he ended up saying is fine. I just wish he would have told me. Um, and then moving on in 180th place, we have Love and Other Drugs, where Jake Gyllenhaal's character um, becomes a pharmaceutical med um, distributor person, and his character is also credited for creating Viagra. Enough said about that. How far are we going in this one? 176th place. Okay. In 179th place, we're almost done here. We have My Bloody Valentine, the 1981 version. And honestly, I like the remake better. This one, it's still a good movie, but I much prefer the remake, which isn't all that common, honestly. Usually the originals are praised and the remakes are not as good. But this one, the opposite is true. And then in 178th place, we have Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And this takes complicated marital relations to a whole new level because these two are both spies. Neither one knows that the other's a spy until partway through the movie. Like, they don't just say, oh, hey, by the way, I'm a spy. Oh, hey, so am I. That would have made things a lot easier, and the movie wouldn't have happened. So, um, they both get the same assignment to try and track down somebody and kill or capture them. And Brad Pitt's character here ends up messing up her op uh, by setting off a bunch of her booby traps by accident, and the two of them ended up actually kind of like fighting while before they realize who they're trying, like who sabotaged, before she realizes who sabotaged her hunt, her bounty hunter gig. And once they figure out that, hey, we're competing against each other here, they kind of have a massive shootout in their house, where of course neither one dies, and then they team up to take out their respective companies because their companies are now hunting them. So complicated, complicated, easy enough to follow, but the dynamic these two have is very complicated. In 177th place, or next to last for this video, or like the next to last title we're talking about, that is Misery, based on Stephen King novel, on a Stephen King novel. Paul Sheldon used to write for a living. Now he's writing to stay alive, because this character is holding him hostage until he makes a satisfying conclusion to her favorite book series, and is actively threatening him, as you can kind of tell with her holding the hammer like that. She's threatening either physical harm or killing him if he doesn't give her favorite story a satisfying ending. And in 176th place, and the last title we're going to be talking about for this video, we have Mickey and Friends 10 Classic Shorts Volume 2. I watched all 10 of these. They are Mr. Duck Steps Out, Winter Storage, Pluto's Party, Pluto and the Gopher, Mickey's Trailer, Pluto's Sweater, Boat Builders, Tugboat Mickey, The Band Concert, and Lonesome Ghosts. The only one that I am not including in this placement for the ranking is Lonesome Ghosts, because that one is also found in Mickey's House of Villains, which is the Halloween version of Mickey's House of Mouse, which I really wish Disney would release on DVD along with the Buzz Lightyear Star Command series. Disney, if you're watching, put those out on disc. Anyway, those other 9, however, were first-time views, and all 9 of them were pretty good, and I did enjoy them all a good bit. Volume 1 has the likes of Steamboat Willie and a few others, but I think for the most part, I've seen all of those ones before. But I could do a Mickey Mouse ranking down the road, where I rank all my Mickey Mouse titles. So maybe I'll end up doing that. If I'll say in another video later on whether or not I decided to do that or not. And anyway, that is it for this ranking video. I might go ahead and do another 50 titles while this one's uploading. So I'll most likely be right back, and I might take these cases all downstairs because it's a lot. They don't even fit all in one screen right now. So I'm going to go take these down, and like I did last time I took cases down, I'm not going to sort them right away because I want to try and get through more of these titles. But yeah, so I'll be back shortly, but in the meantime, I'll upload this video for you guys to watch, comment, subscribe, and enjoy, and to tell your friends and family and anyone you meet, really, about it. So yeah, here we go. Hope you enjoy this video, and I'll be uploading this in just a few seconds.